your property here at 123 Main Street. I saw you had it on the market previously. Any plans to sell that property this year?
We think we're going to keep it off the market for now. Interest rates are kind of high.
Interest rates are kind of high and basically just keeping it off. I mean, when you originally had the property on the market, were you looking to stay here locally or were you looking to move out of the area?
We were looking to stay local, just to upgrade. We need an extra bedroom or two.
Extra bedroom or two. Okay. And I mean, let's say interest rates stay the same at the 7% and it's 1 or 2 years down the road. It sounds like you're pretty much okay with your current living situation. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it just looks like it's going to be too expensive to move up.
Too expensive to move up. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so basically you're looking for a lower payment. What would be ideal for you? I mean, what are you currently paying on your mortgage at the moment, if you don't mind me asking?
We're at 4,500.
4,500. So,
yeah.
I mean, if we found the perfect property, sounds like you're staying here locally. You just need more space for the kids and family. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How much higher are you comfortable going on a monthly basis from the 4,500, or were you trying to stay at that $4,500 mark?
Yeah, that's the thing is, it's going to double if we move up because the prices have gone up in the area as well. So I just don't think we can afford to do it.
Okay. So you're basically looking at it, hey, if I do purchase something else, my payment's going to double. That's going to put us house broke. And basically you made the decision to kind of stay put.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Totally makes sense. Wondering if I could find you something that maybe, a couple $1,000s more. Let's say you're at like 6,500 instead of 4,500. Would that be worth it to you and your family to get something bigger? That way you had more space for your growing family?
That'll be pushing it, but that might work. What area are you thinking?
Yeah, there's homes in this area. I don't know if you're aware of this, but all FHA and VA loans and any government loan is assumable. So that would allow you to take the equity from your property, pay off the other home loan, and actually keep your payment in that ballpark. So it sounds like if I could find something like that for you guys, you would be on board to potentially taking a look at it.
So I'd be taking on someone else's mortgage?
Yeah, exactly. You basically buy them out of their current mortgage with the difference of, we could get into that when we get together. But I'm going to be in your area tomorrow at 5:00. I could show you exactly how this would work. At the same time, I could tell you what we could get for your property in today's market. That way, when that perfect property comes up, you know exactly how much equity you're going to walk away with. And you're going to know exactly how the process works in order to purchase that. Tomorrow at 5:00, or would 6:00 be better?
That sounds interesting. I think 6:00 would be better.
6:00?
What's your commission though?
Yeah, commission is 100% negotiable, and I promise you this, that won't be a rule. I look forward to seeing you guys at 6:00. I'm going to send over a packet of information. It's going to tell you a little bit about me and my company. And I look forward to meeting you, and your wife will be there as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome job. Sean, just for the sake of your the point of digging deeper. I think where you veered off to just plain numbers instead of digging deeper on the motivation itself was when you said, what if I could show you, payments between 6,500 and 4,500? Would that be worth a look? Right. I think you could dig into a little bit of what's important about, the growing family, like really what is happening. Maybe you could go deeper there instead of going into the numbers. It's my thought based on what you wanted to work on. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah. I think that's
I was a little thrown off because I was hoping he would say, like, I'm looking to move a year from now, and I was going to go down that rabbit hole, and then I kind of went into the interest rate, which wasn't even important. I mean, it was,
at the end of the day, it is important. But for the sake of what you wanted to work on, I think you could have dived deeper into what's important about upsizing for you and the family. And ultimately, what's that going to do for you when you achieve that goal? And let's just imagine when you're in that house and everything had worked out perfectly, how would that make you feel? Something like that in terms of going deeper there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
So that would be my only feedback. I mean, everything, if you went the route of the payments, and that was perfect too. There's nothing wrong in this role play, just for the sake of what you wanted to work on. I feel like that was the opportunity per se. Christopher Perez.
What I wanted to work on, I didn't even do it.
Exactly, yeah. Christopher, what did you think about that? And where could he have some opportunities to have a better conversation with you?
I think you brought up a good point. The motivation, I think, was probably more key, just because I felt like I could have really gotten really complicated trying to figure out that FHA assumable loan.
That's true.
So I definitely had a lot more questions about how that works, and that could turn into a really long conversation and can be really confusing. And then, do they have the money for the difference, the equity part? So if I imagine Sean knows that conversation well. I find that most of my clients really don't understand it. Like, it takes several times of examples to show how that works.
That's true. So we want to, and complexity is the enemy of execution. And if you make it too complex for the seller, they might think, you know what, I'm just going to give up on this, forget about it. Let me think about it next year, right? So, but what's important about upsizing could have been an angle to simplify the goal for him and his family. What's the pain there? If you could solve the pain, I think most of the time they would be like, yeah, you know what, come on over and show me what you do.
Yeah, what I realized as I was going down that rabbit hole is that that led to a perfect opportunity for me to explain to them in person and get a meeting. So I created curiosity with what that program, or you could even call it a program. And when we get together, we can go over everything in person. That way you fully understand.
Yeah, no, that's a great point there as well. Awesome. Great job. Mr. Ireland, what do you think about that role play?
I want to apologize. I came in a little late, so I just listened to the critique part of it, which was really more of a guidance.
Okay, got it. So really, what Sean wanted to work on was getting to the bottom of the motivation. So where he veered off was going into the numbers more than what's important about selling and buying for the seller, beyond just the numbers itself. What questions would you ask to dig deeper on the motivation in this case? Yeah,
and it would be maybe to avoid questions like why, because why tends to be quite confrontational, and who, and I like what Aaron often will say, he'll say, well, I can tell you're really intent on making this move happen. And it sounds like, hearing a lot of excitement about it in your voice. How does your wife feel about it? And then that brings in another piece of information. And, or we can say, how does the family feel about it? What sort of convenience does this create for you in your life? And, having put yourself through so much effort to try to make this happen. I'm just curious, how does it feel to have to put your plans on pause right now? So it brings in a little bit more. And then I think, and as people do respond to these questions, because we're just trying to perceive, right? We're trying to get a better picture, and we're trying to demonstrate that our strong intention is to listen and to understand, and not to try to jump on the first thing that they say to try to close them, if you know what I mean. And so, well, that's exactly why we need to meet. Just when you say, well, where you're going to move, I'm going to move to Toronto. Okay, great. That's exactly why we need to meet. So maybe just a little bit more about Toronto and a little bit more of what's waiting there. What's life going to be like? I try to think of the other people that are involved. And then, so good thing to remember that everybody has basically two reasons for doing what they do as a stated reason. They have the reason they'll tell you, usually up front. Mm-hmm. And then later on, you find the real reason. And that's what we're really trying to get to with these questions. And so when you demonstrate that you are an intent listener, seeking first to understand before being understood, then people are going to start, singing like a canary. And then they feel comfortable because they feel comfortable in the environment. They know that you're not judging them, and they're actually approving them. You're validating them. You're demonstrating empathy, and then you're meriting the right. You're earning the right then to ask for the appointment. And so that would just kind of be an overriding philosophy.
Oh, thank you for that. That was really good, Mr. Ireland. So, Sean, have you ever had conversations where, a lot of times they're like, why are you asking all these questions? And then has there ever been a time where the seller is like, you know what, to be honest with you, I've been getting a divorce. Like they either open up or they close off. Right. So I think if you were to ask questions like what questions, the how questions, and avoid the why, like Mr. Ireland said, I think would have been super effective. Yeah. Christopher, what do you think?
Love that.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I agree with Mr. Ireland. Why questions tend to piss people off and what questions tend to open them up. So I think like what's important to you about getting an extra room or two? It sounds like you're really tight on space. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And then have them open up and say, and then maybe get into some alternative options to maybe reduce his payment for those high prices right now or high interest rates. Like, just mention like a list that you can go over in a meeting rather than getting into specifics. That way you look like you're a good guide for their next move. It looks like you have the possible solutions to help them get into that home.
Yes, less explaining. Put out the option and the hope, but don't explain it because that's what you do in person. So yeah. Great point as well. Awesome. Okay, go ahead. Mr. Ireland, can you be the prospect? And what would you like to work on, Christopher?
I've been working on my probate script, so I'm going to go ahead and try that out. Real quick, do you feel like mentioning that you're a real estate agent and that you're calling about the probate alerts them and creates a barrier, or as long as you stick to a professional script of offering a lot of value, you might be able to overcome that?
My approach is always be super straightforward and forthcoming. So I don't mind saying right off the bat, whatever script it is, that I am a real estate agent. And that's okay. You're gonna get the initial reflex no anyhow. So why don't you get it over with? And then again, like after that, provide value. That's my take, Mr. Ireland. What would you think about that?
Oh, right from the start, we always want to be genuine and never appear that we're concealing something or trying to trick people. And some people, as you know, are really skeptical. So we want to demonstrate integrity right up front. And I like that. And sometimes we get a little bit caught up in the words. And I think what we all become aware of in communication, so much of what we say isn't the words. It's like the tone and just, you're smiling and we're playful, and then we're super keen on trying to pick up like where they are in their kind of emotional state so we can sync with that. So it's it's always let them know you're an agent up front, because odds are it's like when you phone your client, you say, today's Christopher, want to talk to you about business. Do you have a quick moment? So you jump right into it. You avoid the small talk, only then to reveal your agenda that you're calling to ask for business, right?
Yeah.
People don't really like that. So I always announce it. Michael Ireland, the realtor, and then I launch right into it.
Got it. All right. I'll get into it then. Ring, ring.
Right.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning. With Michael, please.
Yeah, it's Michael. Who's this?
Good morning, Michael. This is Chris Perez. I'm a local real estate agent here with EXP Elite Builders team. And I was calling because my head researcher pointed out to me very shortly, if not already, you may be appointed a personal representative of the probate estate that's been filed for the Ireland family.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm representing. I've got a couple of sisters as well that are kind of representing. So we're getting everything all sorted out here. But I don't think the probate isn't going to be ready for, I think the lawyer said about 2 months or something.
Got it. Okay. And that sounds about accurate. And thank you so much for your willingness and kindness to share that information. And Michael, sincerely, I was calling in reference to very respectfully in regards to the real estate property. And I'm curious if you guys have already decided or still thinking about putting that property on the market. What is it that maybe you have questions about that process?
Yeah, well, I'm learning real quick here. It's like the diploma program. But the lawyer that we're working with has told us that we should probably just start getting everything like that. We got to purge the house. There's a lot of stuff there. And then meanwhile, he said we should talk to a couple of realtors. My sister knows a gal. And then I asked the lawyer to recommend somebody. And he said, I think he had somebody. But yeah, we'll probably talk to 2 or 3 agents just to figure out what to do. And obviously, I'm the one with the responsibility. I've got to make sure that we get a good dollar for the house.
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is you definitely want to maximize the sale, and you want to make sure that you pick the right person for the job. Is that about right?
Well, yeah, that and a whole lot more. But ultimately, I think I don't want anybody second guessing that we got enough for it. And like already, I'm starting to realize that like there's so much bureaucracy involved in this. And anyway, so we got to get it all sorted out. We'll get it purged. There's some repairs that have to be done because it got run down quite a bit. And so I'm thinking that and a few garage sales will probably be ready maybe sometime mid-August.
Got it. Okay. And so again, thank you for your willingness to share the information. And we have the great fortune of helping a lot of families that are in your same circumstance over the years, hundreds of them on our team. And what we find is that there are 3 things that help them very much during this process. And the first thing is a clear and realistic picture of value. And so what that means is the property in its current condition and in this current market, what is it worth? What's a realistic range of value? The second is once it is sold and everything shakes out, what is the net bottom line for everyone involved in that probate? And then, of course, you also mentioned that you may have to prepare the property, get some stuff out, get it cleaned. And so that third thing that we find extremely helpful as well, we have a list of preferred vendors that we share with our clients that can help with like estate sales, because sometimes there's really valuable stuff in there. Or maybe a company that can help you take some of the content out that are no longer needed. And even a handyman or contractor that can help with either light work or heavy work on the house to get it prepped for a good sale and really maximize the value. Do you think that any of those 3 might be helpful for you and your family at this point in time?
Yeah, kind of like, all 3 for sure. I mean, I've got the tax assessment here, so I pretty much know that the value is going to be, somewhere around 2.3 or something like that. And because I heard they sell for a little above the assessed value, and it's assessed, I think it's 2.12 or something. And like, I'm pretty sure it would sell fast because it's in a good neighborhood, but it's more just the preparations that we're working on. So I've even been talking to a couple of contractors, just have them come in and do quotes, because we got to figure out, do we go all the way with renovations? Because, definitely needs a totally new deck, or do we just do some kind of light vignette sort of thing, 5-gallon overhaul? So we got to figure that out. And I don't want to spend a lot of money on it if I'm not going to get the money back, right? And then as far as these, I'm finding a lot of these charity places don't even take stuff anymore. You got to bring it to them. So I got to figure out like that whole estate sale stuff. We're just getting into it now, and so your call is a little premature, but I'd be interested to know, what you think. If you've got somebody you could send my way, like to help with talk about purging, and if you have any renovating contractors.
Yeah, 100%. So the idea again is, my intention is not to convince you to do anything, but rather to be of service. And the intention is also to alleviate the burden of a lot of these tasks. And what I heard very clearly is that you want to make sure that the property is maximized in terms of value. So that way no one is second guessing, which that's the purpose for bringing the comparables and showing what the value is in this current market and in its current condition. But you also mentioned that you might want to do some repairs. And so my preferred vendors that we've worked and shared with other clients already have a proven track record. And we already know from past experience what kind of jobs can help maximize a sale and which ones could be a waste of money. And I'd like to show you those as well. And lastly, the net sheet at the end, when it all shakes out, after everything is said and done, what is the family expected to receive? And so those three things are three that I really feel are beneficial to families. And as you just pointed out, questions. So that way you don't have to do all that calling and figuring out a guess. We've already done all that. Do you mind if I make a suggestion?
Yeah, well, what's that?
Well, at this point, it sounds like what I normally provide to families is exactly what you need to help conversation flow and make better decisions between you and your siblings. And what we normally do at this point is schedule like a 10, 15-minute Zoom call so we can see each other face to face, go over those three items, share with you those preferred vendors, and then see how we can go there to maximize that sale. And at least you have the information to make the proper decisions when you're ready. Does that make sense? Would that be helpful for you?
Yeah, it's that would be, and I know that my two siblings, of course, are not in the area, so we'd have to do it by Zoom. And so why don't I do this? If you want to maybe send me out a couple of times where we could do that next week. I'm just a little buried in things right now. It's Christopher, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So if you could do that, Christopher, and then, as far as the handyman, what I really need is one of those people that comes in here and starts to say, well, you can sell that sofa for this, and we can give that to the Salvation Army, that sort of thing, to get started. And then, like you say, the contractors, because I know at minimum we need a painter and a carpet person here, and definitely a handyman. So that'd be a really handy resource. And I can't make any promises because I've got to kind of represent. Like I said, my sister's got a friend who's a realtor, and then the lawyer gave us this other fellow to talk to. But I definitely consider, what you're saying as well, and get your opinion on it. Yeah,
I appreciate that. Those would be some of the first items I could share with you. Seems like you're already getting started on that, so we can tackle that first. And when we meet, I could even try to pull up some people and see if we have any immediate questions, depending on how our conversation goes and how much time we have. We work with a lot of attorneys, so I'm confident that we'll be able to do the right job, in the right direction. And
I really look forward to that call. Do you think under normal circumstances that maybe this evening at 6:30 or just tomorrow evening at 5:30 would be better?
Yeah, tomorrow evening would be better for sure. Yeah, maybe
Okay,
anytime after 6.
Okay, that sounds great. So in that case, then tomorrow evening, I do have 6:30 available. I'm going to pencil you in here. My assistant's going to follow up tomorrow just to confirm. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and prep that information. I'll go ahead and get it out to you by email so that way you can take a look at it. Any of your siblings want to take a look at it as well in case they may have some questions while we're on the call. They're welcome to join us and they're welcome to ask me any questions so that way I can be of the best service to you. Okay?
Yeah, hey, sounds good. It's a possibility created. We'll talk to you tomorrow, and you say how long it will be?
Normally 10 or 15 minutes, but again, I leave a little bit more time on my end in case you and your family members have more questions.
Sure.
Which is normally the case.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, well, let's do it, and we'll look forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate your time, and I'm seeing each other face to face tomorrow.
So, Christopher,
Yes, sir.
you work with
Aaron.
you work with Aaron. Well, I see evidence of that certainly in your dialogue and your choice of words, and I just want to say globally that I felt really comfortable with you in that conversation.
Awesome.
Right. And that's kind of one of the things we want to produce, right? We want people to, that area in their brain, the amygdala that warns them of danger, the fight or flight. That wasn't warning me that there was anyone trying to do me wrong on the other line or looking out for themselves. So, clearly your approach as trained by Aaron, that was definitely manifest. So, and there's a lot of people listening on this call, and I think about how, like you, because you're pretty comfortable with the script. Okay. So I'm guessing that besides knowing your scripts pretty well, that there's one subject, one topic that you probably have mastery over, possibly more than anybody else on this call. What would that be? Is there anything in the realm of athletics or in the realm of engineering? Like, what thing do you know a surprising amount that if somebody gets you started, they can't stop?
Spearfishing, archery, and real estate, family.
Wow. Okay, so yeah, that's quite a list of leisure. So you know a lot about spearfishing? Because I don't know anything about spearfishing. Okay, so you could describe spearfishing to me and everybody on this call. If I gave you a table topic, let's say we're at Toastmasters. Toastmasters, have you been?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I haven't been yet, but I know.
Yeah, you could get a standing ovation at Toastmasters talking about spearfishing because there's a lot of people don't know about that stuff and your ability to educate, and it would just be so fluid for you. So what I'm getting at here is that you're that close to taking the script that you have and turning it into a work of art such that the person that's the recipient of listening to you and engaging with you is like, wow, that's interesting. Wow, I really feel brought into the conversation. And so if you were a Toastmasters, and this is how we learn the hard way, guys, back in the day, every time you would use an audible pause in your speech, you'd throw a quarter in a little tin can or a jar. You get fined. And so what we all on this call, no matter where we are in the journey of scripts and skills, we've got to watch out for those little filler words. And in your case, your favorite is what word? It's and the derivative And so, and the reason I bring that up is it still creeps back into my conversation. Now we're unaware of it, right? Because it's just a way of being. Remember, most of us just work on autopilot. And so what you might want to try to do is when you've got the temptation to put that in, just use the person's name.
Got it.
Because what you're doing in using my name, because it's, the most beautiful sound in the world to you, is Christopher. And so which sounds a whole lot more engaging than And usually you were using as a preface to saying something or asking something. So if you use my name, and not too often because that sounds ingenuous or disingenuous, then you're re-engaging my attention in the conversation. Okay? And then you're personalizing it. I would just play with that, because your choice of language and the pace at which you talked, whether you did it consciously or not, you were right in sync with my tempo, my tone. Like, I wasn't overly enthusiastic, and you got me talking. And I think because you demonstrated empathy about the role I was playing, and I try to do that as well. I just dealt with an estate sale situation last week, and I just said, look, I know that being an executor, it sounds like a really cool title up front, but people don't realize how much is involved in terms of responsibility until somebody passes that baton to them. And I said, it's really the diploma program, and it's very intense, isn't it? And try to have fun with it. Acknowledge the fact that people are feeling enormous responsibility in that role. And this is what we do. We want to try to acknowledge people. We want to encourage them. We want to recognize what they're experiencing and give it back to them in their language. And
That's
so,
a really good point.
yeah. And so, because you're in sync with them, and that's also giving you the segue to say, look, we work with a lot of people in your position that are, quite frank, the cognitive overload of realizing the laundry list of things they've got to be doing, and that ultimately they're accountable. And I said to this one lady, I said, look, I know the deep fear in every executrix's mind is one of my family members going to later come back and saying, you should have done this, and if it wasn't for you. And I said, that's the stuff that keeps you awake at night. It's just, oh my God, you have no idea. I've got these two brothers and they're blah, blah. So now you got connection, right? So when you demonstrate, and I love Aaron's language about this, that, you're the guide, you're the one that's enabling them, empowering them, and that you're showing up as a fiduciary to watch out and to help them to navigate that course, then you're on your way. And so the only critique I have for you is that take what is an exceptional conversation that you delivered, eliminate some of the ahs and ums, because when somebody hears an ah or an and this is for everybody, not for you, what do people hear when they hear ums and ahs? What does that cause them to experience in the conversation with us?
Potentially doubt.
It almost suggests that we're improvising, doesn't it? Like we're making stuff up, that we're stalling for time. It's like when, you ask your kids something and they kind of look off, they go, oh, well, now they're making shit up. And so if you do that, and again, just as a proxy, use their name, then it gives you time to figure out what you're going to say. You ask great questions. And again, that is so close to mastery.
Thank you. I feel like I got a long way to go, but thank you.
Thank you for saying, thank you for the call.
That was really my only feedback, was what Michael had dissected there. But in terms of the anatomy of the conversation with regards to the actual probate, the process and how to have the conversation, I mean, we're in Canada, so we can't actually call those. Sean, Roji, did you guys pick up anything, any opportunities there where Christopher could improve the conversation? Because I've never called one. We can't call them.
I haven't called a probate yet, so I'm not too sure on that process. But
oh, got it. Sean, what about you? What do you think?
I missed the conversation. But, we're always just trying to add value in any way possible. And these are a lot of times a year process. It can be. People are trying to become the administrator. So during that process, a lot of times these properties need work. It's been in the family for a long time. So we always ask, do you need any help clearing anything out? Can we have guys to help you do that. A lot of times they're stuck with a bunch of estate stuff, memorabilia, just a lot of items. So we try to help liquidate that and take as much stress and as much moving parts, bring that on to ourselves and kind of be of service in that way.
Yeah, 100%.
I think you hit all those points. Yeah. Michael, how did you feel about that?
Yeah, because again, guys, if you're a doctor, prescription without diagnosis equals malpractice. And that's why we trust in professionals, is they get clear on the issue that we're dealing with. And when you started to talk about, most people in my situation realize that they need all these faculties of services and service providers, trades, whatever it is. So coming from giving value and giving value that pertains to the thing that is the front burner issue that they're dealing with. And so, yeah, it is. So I think what you covered there is clearly motivation is a little bit different when they're an executor. And you, because we can pretty much assume that their motivation is going to be they have to sell the home. But just recognizing the things that they've actually got to work through logistically, and then you're giving yourself the opportunity to find out what's most important to them. And I talked about getting rid of, all the trinkets and trash and furnishings. So you offered a solution there. And then it's like a bank account. You kept making deposits. And so just to jump to another topic, yeah, in Canada, we don't. We're often referred, say, by a family member or a neighbor that makes reference to, we'll call these people because, I understand that it's going to be going up for sale. So I don't call a lot of probates.
I have a quick question in reference to the script. So the script actually flows in a different way, but because of your comments or objections, or it wasn't really an objection, but just what you brought up, to me, it didn't make sense to stick to the line items. The script kind of breaks down the value, then the net sheet, then the vendors in different forms to kind of add value throughout the conversation. But since you had already brought up some of your pain points, I kind of felt like I needed to truncate it. Do you feel that was an appropriate approach, or should I just stick to the script so that way I eliminate more possibilities of those ums and ahs, since I had to kind of improvise, or I chose to improvise, I guess?
So that I understand your inquiry there. It is, when you say the script's broken down, do you mean the way you ask the questions in order, or?
Yeah. The way that Aaron's script breaks down is we present a value. We ask if they would appreciate that or if that would bring value to them. Then we present another valuable asset, the net sheet. We ask if that would be something of value to them. They say yes. Then we say, we also can give you the last bit of value, which is the vendors list. I assume that's going to be really valuable to you too. Yes. Okay. Well, then can I make a suggestion? And you jump into the appointment setting. But the way that you brought up your pain points, and to kind of get to the point, I guess, because you brought up so much, I didn't want to start breaking them down again. So I said, yeah, we actually do that. We give you an accurate estimate of value. We give you what you should be expected to receive at the end of the closing. And we also have vetted contractors and vendors that have already been proven that could be helpful. And then I broke it down. Would all three of those be valuable? And once you said yes, then I went for the close for the appointment.
Yeah.
But normally
Okay.
it's broken down.
Okay, I got it. So I'll give you a short but a long answer to that. So a knowledgeable person knows that a tomato is actually a fruit, not a vegetable. Everybody on this call knows that. So you're all knowledgeable. You know what a tomato is a fruit. A wise person knows that you don't put one in a fruit salad. Okay, so I would just say you're being really versatile in the call, and the reason how you're gonna know whether to deliver just the line item script or dance with it is just based on what you're hearing in the conversation. And so it might look like this because you guys sell so many estates. You could but you could float out an example of a recent situation you guys were involved in. And maybe it kind of sounds like sometimes, and I'll give you an example, we had a seller who had an agent come in, told these people their home was worth 1.2, we'll sell it as is, we'll get a junk guy to take all your furniture out, and away you go. And then we were able to come in, we were asked for an opinion of value, but most importantly, if we staged the property, okay, if we prepared it so that it won the beauty contest. Well, as it turns out, we got them $1.38 million for the property. And I'm sure you'd agree that's a significant amount of delta between those two numbers, right? Yeah. And so what we often find, some sellers just simply want it sold and they want to be done with it. Other sellers, because of their fiduciary duty, and they really need to optimize the price, they need help to have the property certainly cleared out. In some cases staged, in many cases repairs, okay? And so we find that by doing that and raising the standard of the home, not at a big cost, we have all those faculties we can support you with. That maybe in offering you an opinion of value, I can show you what that optimized scenario would look like, what a scenario would look like if it was just sold off the balance sheets. And then from there, you and the family can decide what the priority would be. Would that be helpful? Maybe take that angle?
Yeah. I like that. That's been very helpful.
Great
yeah,
work.
because third-party stories are always great. Like, well, just the other day, can I tell you a story? We all have a story.
Yeah, that's a really valid point. Thank you. That and really realizing and showing to them that you realize that it's a big responsibility that they're about to take on.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
helpful.
And I don't want to complicate this, guys, because there's just so many different things got to be put together like a golf swing. And if you start to think through it while you're golfing, it's no fun, right? It just has to happen automatically. But intuitively, because we're all professional salespeople, we'll all agree on one fundamental thing is that the 2 ears, the one mouth theory, and just be a really good listener. And so what knowing your scripts does is it allows you to listen so you don't have to use all this cognitive power to figure out what am I going to say next. Okay. And in doing so, people, as they talk, they're going to communicate the whole architecture of the way they think. So you're not only going to understand what they think, and you're also going to understand how they think. People process life differently. And there's the basic personality types, which you guys know, and you'll very quickly pick up on that. So you know whether to condense your conversation to get to the point, or to really get into it with people who start to express their emotional feeling about a situation and give them empathy. So that's what maturity is. It allows you it being very, very present in the moment with another human being that's experiencing life in a certain way, aligning with that, and then you've closed the door to anybody else who's going to do business with them.
Thank you. Everyone's points have been very helpful. Thank you, guys.
Awesome work, Christopher. All right. Who else would like to role play? Rilji, Sean, Nicole?
Yeah, I'll do one for I have a friend objection.
Okay. I have a friend in the business. I have a friend objection. Sean's good at this. Let's go. Let's hear it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I have a friend in the business.
Yeah, I totally understand and I really respect your loyalty that you have to your friend, Sean. And oftentimes I find when I speak to someone that's looking to sell their properties, it's usually a business decision, right? It's about who can net the most money, who can do it efficiently and effectively. And as such, it usually makes sense to get more than one opinion in regards to price, marketing, and commission. Do you think that would be helpful in this instance?
Not at this point. We've worked with our friend throughout our lifetime, so he's been very helpful, knows the market really well. So we got a pretty good idea on the value of the property.
Got it. And once again, I respect the loyalty and I totally respect that you have to your friend. I do want to make this crystal clear that, you don't owe me anything. I'm just a voice over the phone. And you don't owe anything to your friend, to this individual. What this is really about is you owe it to your family to make sure you make the best decision to get to your next destination. And being that as a business decision, most sellers get another opinion, again, on price, commission, and marketing. I mean, do you think it'll make sense to do some due diligence before getting tied up in a lengthy multi-contract?
We have done our due diligence. We've looked online. We've seen there's actually a comparable to our home, same model that just sold. So have a great idea on price, and we're really close with our friend, and we know he's a top agent, and he's done really well for us in the past. But I appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, I gotcha. And seems like, you know, you guys have a very close relationship, right? And at the same time, have you heard in our culture a saying that, you know, you want to be cautious about doing business with friends and family? Have you heard that saying before?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And what do you think that exists? Why do you think people say that?
Yeah, I think it could potentially ruin relationships if, you know, maybe certain expectations aren't being met, or maybe things weren't clearly drawn out on what the roles were for each
Mhm.
party. But
Right.
you know, as I mentioned, we've been with this guy. We've done several sales here in the past, but yeah, I mean, what do you think makes you different than John?
Yeah, it's a good question. You know, it's not that I do anything different. We just do it better. And I want to demonstrate that up front with you. So, fuck. What if there's a win-win proposition where you get the best service and result that you deserve and still be able to keep this relationship, preserve this relationship with your friend? Would you be open to that idea at all?
I mean, he's always given us great service in the past here, you know. But what do you mean win-win?
Yeah. So what I mean by a win-win proposition would be, because we do this all the time, you know, you're not the first person that told me that you have a friend that's in the real estate business. So what we oftentimes do is we would give a part of our commission to you on the selling side commission to your friend. That way, again, they don't have to do any work. At the same time, you get the result that you wanted, preserve the relationship, and he gets paid a little bit of it.
I don't think he'd be too happy with that.
You wouldn't be happy with that?
No.
Okay,
Would
fuck. I
you?
don't know where to go from here. Because the guy, you're saying the guy is okay. Um,
Um,
where would you go from
yeah,
here?
I personally think that it just there was no incentive for me to meet with you. I mean, that's pretty tough. You know, if I had a strong relationship with somebody and I already did business with them, know how they work, um, that one would be tough. But I guess the incentive might be, you know, what Jose always does is, you know, we just sold. The only reason that I ask is because a lot of the properties that we sell them for above asking price. Let me give you an example. We just had this property at 123 Main Street. We ended up getting 10 offers on the property and sold it for $45,000 above the asking price. We had another one on 249 Banana Street, sold it for $30,000 above asking price. Let me ask you this. If you knew simply by switching agents that you could get $30,000 to $45,000 more for your property, would that be worth 15 minutes of your time? I'm going to be in your area this date, you know, are you available? And then usually they'll say no. And then he has another layer where it's like, okay, yeah, look, I totally understand. There's a great agent on the other side. You know, would it be worth your time? I can stop by simply as a complimentary service to share with you exactly what the property would sell for, share with you some of our marketing techniques that we utilize to help sellers like you get multiple offers on the property. At the end of the day, you've interviewed another top agent in your area, and you know exactly our techniques, and you can compare them to John's techniques. You could even share them with John. So I'm going to be in your area tomorrow. Would it be worth 15 minutes of your time? I'm going to be there probably about 6 o'clock. Are you available at that time? So he has like, he even has another layer. He has like, so it's not just one objection handler. It's one, two, three, four, five. it goes deeper. And I've seen him get appointments where he's like 7 deep, and he's aggressive in a good way, but he pulls the pressure off, I think, with it being complimentary. Like, look, you don't have to hire me. I'm simply here to help and assist you. And if it makes sense, great. If not, that's okay too. No sweat off my back. So
That's interesting.
I think I missed one of the big layer that you mentioned earlier was what if, the money part, right? What if you can get 20,000, 30,000 more what you've been asking, or over the asking price, get a multiple offer? Would that be something worth 15 minutes of your time? Right. And then the referral, or actually before the referral, again, you said was no pressure. It's just more of an opinion, second opinion. You can take this information, give it to your friend, compare it, right? Like that low pressure approach I was missing. And then I think the last resort is the referral.
Yeah, the referral was a Hail Mary.
It's like, I would not want to go that route at all.
Yeah, that's like a last resort. I think the real life example of, we were just able to sell one of your neighbors for $80,000 over asking, and we had 8 offers on the table. I mean, if we could achieve the same result for you, I mean, would you want to take a look at it? And it only take 10 to 15 minutes of your time. And after the 10 to 15 minutes, you can decide for yourself if it's better to work with me or if it's better to stick with your friend. So if you and I were to meet, when would you be available? Monday or Tuesday at 4? Right. So just keep it simple there. I wrote down, in the beginning of the call, we talked about not to use the word why so much. Well, why do you think people say that? Why do you think that analogy exists, that don't do business with family? So instead of why, maybe say, what do you think is the reason that it exists? Just to get away from why.
And John, and we can always default back to that little NLP script, the one, is that, John, has there ever been a time in your life where you did business with a friend and it didn't work out?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, this time potentially could be like that time. Can I explain what I mean by that?
Sure.
And then you go into how, all of a sudden you got to start sharing some very personal information with your friend that, at least with the professional, it's not going to be used against you. But all of a sudden your friend knows you got a massive line of credit, that you're going through, a personal situation that you don't want exposed. So, people intuitively know that. And sometimes they get a little nervous dealing with a friend because there's a lot of assumptions at play. And, it's just like when you play Monopoly with somebody, you find out what they're really like. And people also know with the professional that everything about them is being represented professionally, and they can also fire them and there's no consequence. Try to fire a friend. And so, but I go back to, has there ever been a time in your life where you did this and it didn't work out? Or, it's like with the commission, has there ever been a time in your life where you thought you were saving money, but it ended up costing you money? Try to go back with the generic experience that everybody's had. Has there ever been a time in your life where you regretted something that you did? And then use their own experience as a platform for logic, not why do you think people say never do business with a friend?
Have them say it to you.
Can you repeat how you started that question?
It's has there ever been a time in your life, ... So whatever the objection is, often it's a commission, or often it's, in this case, do business with a friend. I'm just curious, has there ever been a time in your life where you did business with a friend and it didn't turn out the way you thought, or that you regretted it? And then they say, yeah. Because to be honest, everybody's had that experience, right, guys? You lend a friend money, or you trusted them to do something and, they didn't do it. And then you say, well, this time is really just like that time. Can I explain? And then you get the logic. Most people find that when they get into a situation where they need professional representation to a friend that, despite their good intentions to help, have no professional capacity, and realize, oh no, what have I done? And the reason I'm bringing this up is recently we just listed a property that was represented by, guess what, a friend. And the seller was desperate because after 7 months, no sale, the relationship got really tenuous. Actually had to fire their agent because they found out some things that were happening. And so we were able to go in there professionally, give them the representation they needed. And of course, the marketing that really should have occurred, and we got the home sold, yada, yada, yada. So kind of use logic after you first put them in a position to acknowledge what is the obvious. Is that generally you don't do business with a friend when you've got a far better option to do business with a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Powerful. Yeah, have no professional capacity. That's really good. Throwing it under the bus eloquently. Awesome. All right. Does that help, Roji? We'll keep working on this. I mean, this is a one-time thing. Yeah, let's keep working on it. But the next time you get come across that objection, you'll go at least 2 to 3 deep now, right? All right. Good stuff. All right.
It's the toughest one. I mean, it's the one we face the most out of every objection, and
Most.
and that's why John says, call your database. Don't be cold calling, well, do that too, but reach out to the people that know, like, and trust you first.
Yeah, always call the hottest ones first and then work down to the colder ones. But I mean, a hot lead is a hot lead. And sometimes a hot lead, they're at the bottom of the funnel. They are interviewing 4 or 5 agents. So you're going to come across that. So keep going, guys. All right, let's come back here next week. And I think Aaron will be back. Michael, any last insight?
Just to keep really fluid in the dance. And if you can, if you feel things getting a little tense, guys, have one thing you can fall back on. Try a little humor. Try to release the tension in the conversation by using some humor and acknowledging people. And so, yeah, because remember, where people, what we want to create is an experience where people feel comfortable with talking. And so sometimes it's okay to state the obvious, like where you don't know where to go with the conversation. Be honest with you, say, look, I may seem a little bit overly aggressive here with pushing to try to find an appointment. And so, excuse me if I'm being a little overzealous here. And my real intention was, and then state your intention. So when you don't know where to go, tell them about what you're experiencing or what you feel is going on. And people are very, very gracious if you're authentic.
Great advice. Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Christopher, Roji, Sean. All the best, guys. Let's make it a great day, and we'll see you all back here next week. Adios.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.